This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Berbejicio. Today, we are diving into a space that impacts nearly every one of us, whether we rent, own, invest, or simply live, and that is real estate. Joining me is Inaas Arabi, the Chief Operating Officer at Block, a fast-growing property management company that's not just managing real estate assets, but reimagining the systems behind them. From centralizing complex operations to integrating AI-driven solutions, Inaas is helping transform how property management works at scale and how it feels to those who depend on it. In this conversation, we will unpack how Block is redefining what operational excellence looks like in real estate, why the industry has lagged in tech adoption and what's changing now, the future of ERPs, AI, smart buildings, and even VR in housing, and why human connection still matters most, even in a tech-powered world. We'll also talk about Inaas' personal journey, from building systems and leading change to how he stays inspired outside the office. This episode is for anyone fascinated by the convergence of technology, operations, and real human impact. Whether you are in Proptech, managing properties, or just curious about where your rent check is heading, this one is for you. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Inaas Arabi. Inaas, thank you so much for being here.
Mateo, I am absolutely pleased to spend some time with you today. This is a long time due, but I'm really excited about getting to spend some time and kind of having a great conversation with you. I've always respected the podcast, and you've done an amazing job with it. And you get a wide variety of experiences on this podcast, so I respect that and I appreciate it. And again, I'd love to spend some time with you today to be able to discuss Block and myself.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, my friend. We go way back, and it's always nice to stay in touch. But interviewing friends has a special flavor to it, right? It's I know you so much that it gets super fun and interesting. So, for the benefit of the audience, Inaas, let's get started with the very basics. What do you do today for a living?
Yeah, awesome. And since we know each other so well, don't hold anything back, right? Let's have a really great conversation together. So I am currently the Chief Operating Officer for a company called Block and Associates Realty. This is a growing property management company. We focus on roll-up of smaller companies into and roll them up into the Block experience, Block methodology. We redefine excellence in real estate, and I'm basically involved in overseeing all the internal operations. That's all the way from business development to leasing to maintenance to asset management to after-hour support, HOA, pretty much you name it, you call it. I am involved in setting it up or making it better every day. Now, overall, I'm really interested in shaping what we call a service delivery, which is you optimize your system, you align your internal teams, and you do a great job to be able to achieve your strategic business goals, but you do all of that by providing the best service you can for your clients at the end of the day. And then finally, a big portion of what I do, it's usually also setting up the company for scalability, because we are rolling up companies underneath it. It's really important to be able to hammer the three things: the scalability to make it available for growth, operational excellence so we could do a great job and keep these owners, and then finally the growth itself that we're looking to do and how do we operate through it.
Very good. And how long have you been working with Block?
So the journey with Block was an interesting one. I was hired initially to be able to come in and look at their operation and solve some of the complex items like their turn process and their maintenance and some of the other stuff. But as I've interacted with these folks, what really struck me is that these are a really great bunch of people, that they're trying to do a good job. They were stuck in what I would call the old days of doing property management. And look, rightfully so, in today's world, if you've never experienced something else, how would you know what you're doing is not scalable or is not ready for next phase or whatever? So anyway, with all of this, it really pushed me more toward working on ops, and then finally, took on the chief operating officer position to be able to help lead the entire company from an ops perspective to where we're ready to scale, able to scale, and then we are doing growth. Now, it's important to explain, like, look, a lot of people say a lot of things, but I'll provide some real results of what we're talking about, right? Over the past couple of years, we've rolled up close to 10 companies underneath Block, as small as 30 doors and as big as 500 doors. And the idea is you need to be set up internally to be able to accept those new units and work through it. And then number two, you need to be also looking out from an operational excellence, like how do I provide better service for those folks that were taken on compared to how and what they were getting done before. And then finally, you also want to do this in a methodical way that makes sense from a profit perspective and HR perspective and goals perspective, right? You don't want to go out hiring 100 people every day to be able to manage a portfolio. You really want to make sure that you've set up your systems and your operations correctly to allow you, again, to do all of those three things: scalability, operational efficiencies, and take on the growth that you need.
And let's go, back in memory lane. Tell us a little bit about Inaas and your story and some of the things that you have achieved in your life and the skills that you have picked up that position you in a unique way to thrive at Block.
Yeah, awesome. So, look, I am a firm believer today that if you figure out what you like to do in the world, you've kind of won half the career battle out there. The other half is finding the place that would allow you to do what you really love, right? And the reason why I say that is throughout my career, what I've noticed, three things kind of kept on coming up, right? One, redesigning any operation for better. And for better would include maybe better setup operationally, better technology, more operating efficiencies. And then number two is setting it up so you can scale, so you can make it bigger. And then third is really to be able to grow it. So in the early 2000s, as an example, I started my own company, the brokerage and property management company, scaled that to become the seventh largest company in my state. But the key factor to this is we were only 15 people.
Wow.
Yes. And back then, nobody was hiring employees for real estate agents. I was the first company in my area to hire them as salaried employees. Now, I didn't take away their income. Actually, I did better. They did get a salary and they got bonuses or commissions based on all of the work that they've done. So overall, they've made a lot. They made out more money than what the typical people would do, but they were treated as employees. And that helped to be able to do the three elements that we've talked about. Then after selling that business to a national player, I went out to work for the second largest owner operator in the country, which is American Homes for Rent. That was such a fun ride because it was right when we built the company almost from scratch, all the way up to where we took it public. When I started with them, we were 436 doors. By the time I left, we were 37,000 doors.
Wow.
Those were the days that you slept owning X amount. You woke up next day and you might have increased your portfolio by like 500-600 doors, sometimes 1,000 doors, right? And my job was to figure out a way to be able to do again, set up the ops so you could do this right, and then making sure that you are scalable and ready to take on all that growth that we're working through, right? After American Homes for Rent, I went to work for AltaSource. That's when you and we got to know each other. For those that don't know what AltaSource is, it's really big in the property preservation world. and they were trying to build a property management company or division within it. Came in and led that. We've done really well with it within 5 years, scaled the business. It was kind of interesting because this was a little bit different than American Homes for Rent, because this was doing it for a fee on a third-party basis, but you were doing it for clients that they were very budget savvy or sensitive. So you had to figure out ways to be able to do this. I don't want to say on the cheap, but I want to say more on the cost-effective ways to be able to do that. And as you recall, Altisource was the place where I was able to build and run international operational centers. One where you're at in Uruguay, and one in India, and one in the Philippines. And that experience was really awesome. And I truly believe we were the first company that were using that kind of setup to be able to do it at scale. I'm sure you're aware, when we sold the business, merged with another company who got finally sold to Progress Residential, and they used all of those setups that we've had as a back end setup and support for Pretium, which is one of the largest PE firms in the world. So anyway, after selling that, went back to IT, worked for Realty, which is one of the largest property management software providers out there. And that was a little bit of a different gig, but it was really awesome because I used all of the operational background and my educational background as IT professional to be able to professionalize that platform. Some of the things that I did was a brand new application experience for our applicants that integrated all of the screening and the payments and the setup and the onboarding all in one, in a really cool, fresh new way that allowed folks to be able to use it and shorten that cycle for leasing by quite a bit. I mean, the results is that we increased our revenue by about 19%. Now, the other thing that was important is that I took all of the learning from Altisource, and we went abroad with our support. So we built out this 2 layers of support, one in the Philippines and one here in the US, and we productized that and we sold it as a product to our clients here in the US, which also saved us about 7 to 8% of HR cost overall. RealPage went private after being public. It was time for me to kind of go. Then I consulted with a couple of companies. Finally, also landed with Zillow, did their field operations. I was part of the field operations for the Zillow offers. For those who don't know what Zillow offer is, this is the place where Zillow was buying the property, getting it reconditioned or renovated, and then put back on the market and selling it. Almost like an investor, but really at a scale. And after I joined them by a few months, they decided to shut down the business, not because of the field ops, because of their pricing. This right after COVID, where the prices were like going up and down all day. It was kind of difficult to be able to price model that. And once they exited, I also partnered up with a company called Tiber Capital. I was their head of product, built out their ecosystem of products and services. I've used quite a few of the new technologies out there, like some of the best workflow management systems. And then we built 2 native programs. One was an acquisition program that took on 13 points of data to be able to allow our analysts to make a decision whether they want to go forward with buying the property or not. I think I had the pleasure of showing it to you at one point. It was kind of amazing because it took the time that was taken an analyst of analyzing a property from close to about an hour down to 10 minutes. And this was all done natively. So we've connected all of the right places to it from the MLS and some of the other data inputs to do all of that. And then we also built out a field operation software that also was native, that allowed you to be able to do renovation at scale. Since then, we've sold that portfolio to Invitation Homes. And once that happened, I started, consulting again, and that's when I got hooked up with Block. I've been with Block for close to about 2 years now. and I'm really enjoying the ride. I believe I'm bringing all of the expertise that I've accomplished or that I've gained all throughout those 25 years to Block. But what I really liked about it and what I loved about the experience is the fact that it allows me to rebuild for better ops, better operational excellence, and again, scale the company and grow it. And all of that, it's extremely exciting for me.
Such an amazing story, and so many big names in the real estate industry, right? You work in some of the largest names out there, the biggest brands, the biggest companies, and you've grown teams. As you were talking, I was wondering if you had to sum it up in one skill that you think has been key for you. There's finding the right people. There's using the right systems. There's the resilience. There's the discipline. There's so many things that you have, right? But if I pushed you into thinking about one that you think has been the biggest key to your success, what would you say that trait or skill has been?
I would say one word to it is being inquisitive. So let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. Look, all of us, we tend to be or get a little bit of complacency where you are very willing to accept what has been done for a long time, right, as the norm. But the truth to be told, you got to think a little bit outside the box, because if you are looking to do something that was never done before, then you really need to do something that was never done before, right? And you have to be inquisitive in order for you to be able to do that. So I'll provide a little bit of an example because I think I can illustrate it a little bit better. So back when I worked for American Homes for Rent, the experience for leasing was all built around somebody going out, taking you out, showing you a property, and trying to sell you on the fact that this is a good fit for you. That works when you're trying to lease 5, 10, 50 properties, right? But when you're trying to do it at a scale, especially remember what I told you a little bit earlier, this is a company where you slept one day and woke up next day with an extra 500 properties on your roll, on your rent roll. So you really need to do this at a scale. So we thought about it, and I came up with the idea of doing what we call a 2-layer leasing system. So what is a 2-layer leasing system? It was basically putting, instead of having somebody go out to the property to be able to show it, we built this 2 layers, a call center for that matter. There were licensed people in my office that they took the calls from everybody who was interested about taking a look at the property. And they went through the process to be able to make sure that this person is the right fit for us and that property is the right fit for them. And then also explaining to them all of the properties that would fit their needs. Then they would set them up for a showing. Now, in some localities, we were able to do the self-service showings with boxes. Some localities, we had to use physical agents to be able to do it. They would have passed on that lead or that showing to someone or to a box to be able to do the physical showing. And then they would re-engage with that person after the showing to be able to walk them through the process of getting an application and getting them leased. Now, you might be thinking, well, that seems complex and completely different than what the world was doing back then. What I'll tell you, we leased 10,000 homes in 91 days.
Right.
Utilizing this system. So think about that. If you had to do 10,000 homes utilizing the old system, it probably would have taken us at least 3,000 or 4,000 hires to be able to do that, which was impossible, to be honest. So again, if you are inquisitive and you're trying to always look for what you have and making it better all the time, and you think a little bit outside the box, that's what allows you to be able to do all of the great things, such as hiring right people, building out better processes, scaling companies, and even accepting growth the way it was.
Where do you think that inquisitiveness or curiosity comes from, right? Is it because you love real estate so much? Is it because you just have that trade wherever you go, whatever you're doing, you have that trade? Where is it coming from?
Yeah, so this is really awesome. And I think it's a combo, right? it's certainly ingrained in my own personality. That's one, but I think it's a teachable skill. If you become methodical and purposeful about, looking at what you're doing and asking yourself the question, is this really the most efficient way to do it? Right. And I would even go as far as saying, is this the most efficient way to do it for us, for this time, for what we're trying to do? Right.
Right.
Because again, like the example that I gave you was doing it by one person showing is efficient for a smaller scale operation. For a larger scale operation, it's not. Then what do you do about it, and how can you try to solve for that? And is it the process that you're trying to solve? Is it the people that you're trying to solve? Or is it the technology? Or sometimes all of the above, right?
Right.
Because when you really look at something, you could say, okay, I'm getting results X, but that results X is based on process A, people B, and then technology C. But if I switch process A to process Z, I might be able to make this a little bit better and get better results. Or I might leave the process the way it is because process is fine, but maybe the people are not running it correctly. Maybe they need training, they need a little bit of a different skill set, whatever that is. So if I exchange, people B with people Z, or same people B, but educate them to be able to do Z things, then that might also increase your output. And then finally, if both the process and the people are good, but the technology is horrible, then you really got to evaluate that and make sure that this is the right technology or not. So it's certainly ingrained in my personality, but it's also a teachable skill, that if you force yourself to be able to do it, you start to get really better at it, right? And if you were willing to not accept mediocre results, you always will be on the lookout for better, results out there. Now, I do want to talk about something here that I think it's really important in our business, right? And Matteo, you know this very, very well because you were when you and I worked at Altasource, we had to go through some of this. Real estate is never a perfection business, right? Meaning it's not going to be perfect all the time where there are no mistakes or ever never going to happen.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that we're going to make mistakes every little minute that we're working, but we have to be honest with each other. Perfection is not what you're expecting here, right? This is not NASA trying to get people to go to the moon. This is really more of human interaction, and you're dealing with human 24-hour life. And with that, it comes the complexity of everything is different.
Yeah.
Every situation is different. Every person is different. Every case is different. So with that, the standard is never 100%. The standard is always about 80-85% of the cases. So when you think about it that way, you have to allot yourself a little bit of a acceptable error rate. Now, that error rate cannot be 50%. That's miserable. That's a failure. But the error rate could be manageable at a 1 or 2%, right? So if let's say we're managing 1,000 work orders for 1,000 different properties every month, if we were delayed on 5 or 10, even though I don't like the delays, even though that we certainly did not provide the right experience, certainly failed to meet the expectations, but the realities are that 5 or 10 work orders in comparison to the 1,000, it's a very manageable error rate that we could live with. Does that make sense? And if you're looking at it that way, it makes it a little bit more comforting to be able to look for better systems, right? When I say that you got to be inquisitive, does not mean that you have to be always seeking perfection. You need to get better, 100%. I get that. But I cannot believe that perfection is the expectations that we're trying to get to. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
I like to say incremental betterment is probably the better approach that we should be looking at.
Yeah, there are so many potential failure points when you're talking about people living in houses and people doing something on those houses, right? I mean, it's such a sensitive topic. It is. It's actually, top three sensitive topics in your life, right? Your
100%.
home, maybe your marriage, maybe your job, those three, right?
100%. 100%. And actually, your home affects everything else in your life. It affects your marriage life. It affects your work life. It affects the way that you're looking at the world. It affects it's the center of universe for families.
Yeah.
It really is. And it doesn't matter whether you've purchased the house or you're renting the house. It's still, that's the place that you live. That's your home. That's where you operate, right? That's where you spend 24 hours of your day. So it's a big deal. It really is. And when you look at it that way, for property management in particular, this is a very, very tough business. I mean, people think, and quite frankly, I'll be honest to say, especially when I talk to my Proptech, counterparts, they sometimes don't value the operational side of our business correctly. Like they think it's a simple business, right? Like, what's the big deal? You're just putting a property up on the market, you're getting an application for it, you're screening it, and then you're signing a lease and you move them in and you're done, right? But that's so far from the truth that I can't even, fathom, right? Because yes, it is that simplistic when you look at it that way, but it's very different for every one of those that you're dealing with. So every one of those properties that you're putting on market, the way you market it sometimes is a little bit different. The way that you get applicants is different. The way that you screen people the same way, but the way that you react to those folks, it's different. The way that you work through having them understand the lease and negotiate all the terms and kind of get through with the lease terms, it's different. When they move into the property and the way they live in that property is very different. The way that you react to them is a little bit different. And now we're only talking about half the battle, which is the tenant. But on the other side, the owner is different. The way that they look at the property is different. The way that they operate on the property is different. Their expectations of the tenants are different. And what's their goal and on ultimate results that they're looking for are very different. So when you really think about it that way, it's a very complicated business operationally, and building the right ops for it. It's not as simple as, hey, I got this great technology, I'm going to put it through and it's just going to solve all my problems, or it's going to just, make me better company and I'm going to be able to lay off like half of my staff. Unfortunately, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. It's very, very complex and cumbersome when you're building ops for property management, because you are sitting in the center of 3 or 4 different entities. The tenant for sure, the owner for sure, but then you also have HOAs. If that property is in an HOA, you also have a vendor who's working on that company as well. You might have legal entities like inspectors or village or Section 8 inspectors or something like that. And then sometimes you might have outside forces like, somebody going through some financial trouble, somebody going through some legal trouble, and all of that lands on that property management table to be able to solve for. I know it's a long-winded answer, but hopefully I've illustrated how complex this really is beyond what the simplistic approach that some people try to pin on it.
Super, super complex. Let's dive a little bit into the technology aspect here. What do you think is the state of technology for real estate, especially ERPs, AI-driven solutions? How are things looking like today?
Yeah. So look, I'll admit I'm quite excited about some of the new upcoming companies that they're coming into our industry. For a long time, this is looked at as more of an SMB kind of a industry, right? Which basically means there's a lot of businesses that they're small, and small businesses don't excite technology companies very much because they feel like that they're unwilling to invest, or they don't have a lot of money to be able to invest, right? But what's coming down the pike, or what has been coming down the pike, is some like really cool things and companies that they're trying to solve for multiple different things from different angles, right? So I'll provide you some examples. The use of the AI, for example, has been prevalent across multiple industries, but it made itself to real estate for sure. Now, where does AI work? A lot of ERPs have adopted it. A lot of ERPs have been working through it, saying, hey, this is the right way to be able to help. This is the right way to be able to provide efficiencies. So a lot of them are coming up with chatbots, an intelligent way to be able to deal with their systems and so forth. But the reality is, it's just a helping hand today. What does that mean? It means it's not going to replace your human interaction one by one, but it's supposed to make that interaction a little bit better, right? So I'll give you a vivid example. We utilized a super great platform called Property Meld for our advanced maintenance. So we have an ERP, and then on top of it, we layered this maintenance platform that it's basically workflow for maintenance, and it allows us to do maintenance on both ends for our internal team as well as for our external vendors. Because Block, I built an internal maintenance company within Block that does maintenance for its owners. We've done close to $1 million worth of revenue last year. So, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. But anyway, one of the biggest problems that exist in maintenance is getting the accurate data up front from the tenant to really truly diagnose the problem. Because if you diagnose a problem, you can figure out who is the right person or skill that could go fix that issue. So I'll give you an example to illustrate what I'm saying. Let's say a tenant could call and say, hey, my dishwasher is not working. Every time I turn it, it goes blank. Okay. At the surface, this seems like it's what? It's an appliance issue problem, correct?
Correct. Yes.
If you dig a little bit deeper and you ask the right questions, you find out that this is really not an appliance issue at all. It's actually an electrician issue or an electricity issue because the circuit breaker is faulty. So every time you start the dishwasher, the circuit breaker gets tripped. And once it gets tripped, obviously there is no electricity to the appliance. And if there is no electricity, it doesn't work. Now, how did we find that out? Well, we took that tenant through a series of AI conversation or chat to be able to walk them through several things of question and answer, done in a very intelligent way, right? Like, this is not abrasive. This is not aggressive. It's really a very friendly way of almost like two friends having a conversation, right?
Right.
Hey, your appliance is not working. Could you tell us if you hear water coming through to it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, great. Does it go through the full cycle? Yes or no? No, it does not. Okay. When you check the appliance, is it leaking? No, it's not. Okay. Is there any other lights that goes off in the kitchen? Yes or no? And then you work them through all of this, and politely and intelligently you ask them to provide you pictures and videos and media that would make sense. The end result is that, okay, we've diagnosed the issue as an electrician issue, not a appliance issue. So now I can send an electrician to be able to know that they're going out there. It's a faulty circuit breaker. They're going to need to know that they have to bring a 50 amp circuit breaker with them. We know that this is going to cost us $225 because that's what typically costs to be able to do. We know that this is going to be a half hour worth of work when they're at the property. We know that once they do it, they're going to have to be there for an extra 15 minutes to be able to run the full cycle for the dishwasher to make sure that it's working. And we know that this is not urgent and we could do it over the next 3 days, right?
Right.
Now, all of those results are from all of that chatbot elements that we built. And I will give Property Melt a lot of kudos. They've integrated it through an acquisition that they've had with another company who built this out. The product is called Max, MAX. We were one of the very first companies to be able to implement it and work through it. We're technically one of their first beta to be able to do this. I'll tell you the results. We've reduced our faulty work orders by about 30%, 29% and a fraction. The first month we used it. Now, again, I want to stress, this is not us telling the tenant we don't want to solve your issue, right? It's actually more of, hey, I know precisely what the issue is. I'm sending the exact same person to be able to fix it. And I know how long it's going to take them to be able to fix it for you. And all of those three things are awesome things for the tenant to know, because they are now coming at it from the know, compared to like, okay, you're just sending somebody out to be able to take a look at it. They might take an hour to figure out what we just told you, and they have to reschedule for somebody to be able to come out and be able to do all of that work. So that's a very good use of AI, right? The second thing that I've seen from a technology coming onto our market is the VR, which is really revolutionizing the tour and leasing,
Right.
especially on the built to rent aspects of it, right? Because what happens with the built to rent, you might have a model, but you're building units as you're leasing them out. So a lot of times you may not have the ability to see the actual unit itself, but you can build a VR experience that's a virtual reality, where you basically put a goggle on and it walks you through that experience, almost like you're walking through it, yourself physically, but you're not there physically. Great technology. It's reducing vacancy loss for sure, and it's allowing you to lease properties very, very fast. And with today's transitional tenants, where they're moving from one state to the next, it's really important for us to provide them options where they're able to see some of these properties without having to be physically in the states where they're looking at it. One of the third element that is really misunderstood, but I believe it's phenomenal, that is coming down the pike as well, is the blockchain. So before people get nervous, this is not cryptocurrency. This is not anything deals with that. But the blockchain, if you think about it, it's almost like a new operating system that allows you to do smart contracts. And those smart contracts, if you think about them, they're almost like the easiest way to verify something before you move on to the next stage. And in real estate and in property management, there is a lot of those verifications that needs to take place before you move on to the next stage. So I'll give you an example. You can't screen an applicant unless you verify that there is an application that is completely filled out. You can't move them into a property unless there is an application that has been approved to be able to move them in a property, right? And all of those elements could be what we call those smart contracts. So with the use of the smart contracts, it allows you speed, it allows you very transparency, and it brings a very easy check balance system into what you're doing without having to build all of those ifs and then statements within your ops, right? Because technically you won't move to the next step unless you've already verified it through that smart contract. And those are the neat things that are kind of coming down. Hopefully this is what you're looking for, but if not, let me know and I can spend some more time digging into something else.
No, this is great, and this is exactly what I was looking for. What do you like the most about the industry? You have been in this industry, it's a lifetime of work, achievements, and everything. What keeps you excited about it?
It's really the interaction. And remember my entire spiel about the property management, and you're kind of sitting in the middle of a lot of things, right? But it's a brilliant business to be in, because you're really sitting almost like at the interaction of the business, people, innovation, software, process, technology, growth, finance, like almost all of it all in one, right? And you really got to deal with all of it all at one, and you got to deal with it one by one, right? It's a sector that impacts people's lives. I think we've talked about it
Yep.
at length here, because it's the homes are the center of universe for those families. You're really dealing with them for 24/7. That gives you variety. It gives you differences every day. It's never a static job. You never come to work and it's the exact same day as you've had before. You work on very similar things, right? Like you work on workflow, you work on leasing, you work on move-ins, you work on move-outs, but it's never exactly the same as the day before. Very fresh, very different, in a good way, of course, right? Um, and it's really cool. Now, the last thing I would also say that it's really impactful is like we started an HOA business about a year ago, a little over a year ago. We scaled that up, by the way, to a very meaningful business for us. We've got about 7,500 doors under management now, 150 HOAs, and that's a completely different world. It's still real estate, it's
Yeah.
still homes, still units, but it's a completely different element. Now you're managing the community as a community, and you're
Yeah.
trying to make it the best and the better place for people to live. And you're working with a volunteer people that they were voted onto that board to be able to help um, manage that community with you. And your job is to educate them to be able to be their trusted advisor, to provide options and make the option that they've selected true, and be that trusted advisor to be able to walk them through what they need to do. It's different than property management in general because it's not investment into a property that I'm trying to rent, but it's very, very closely related because you are impacting people and impacting how people live in these communities every day.
It's amazing. Do those HOAs get internally? I have the like this bias towards thinking that HOAs are intense from a political standpoint in terms of the discussion between the homeowners. It's that the case?
Yeah, so I mean, and depending on the type of community that you have, and how passionate people are about making sure that they have a great looking community, right? So I'll break it down to you this way. Every owner has some kind of a stake at this community that they're living in, and they also have some kind of a financial stake at the HOA, which is usually a non-for-profit company that is managing that community. They also have a stake in voting the people that will sit on the board to be able to manage the finances and the ops for that community. Um, and people get very passionate about where they live. One example recently is we had a car accident where somebody outside the community had an accident, lost control of their car, and actually hit the sign, the front sign for the community, and kind of destroyed a section of it, right? Well, this is unfortunate. I mean, luckily nobody, got injured, thank God. But when you really think about it, it affected the way that people saw that entrance of the community every time that they came home, right? So there was a lot of voices about, hey, we need to fix this, we need to fix this. And that's absolutely correct. We do need to fix it. But in order for us to help the board do this right, we had to go through the proper steps to be able to do that, right? Because think about this. You have a car, so you have an insurance that is on the car that is involved. You have an insurance on the community that's involved. You also have budget that the money that is involved, and then finally you also have the procurement process of making sure you find the right vendor who's going to fix it correctly, who's going to make it look very similar to what it was before and doesn't look like it's an eyesore, right? And all of those things you have to almost like balance them all out in order for you to come out with the best outcome. Now, balancing them all out sometimes does take a little bit of time, but the homeowner may not understand that, hey, I got to go file a claim with the insurance. I got to go get the police report. I got to take the police report and give it to the insurance companies. I got to go get 4 bids because that's what they need to see. And I have to be able to take those bids to the insurance company, and the insurance company got to price it out based on what they see fit. And that vendor might agree or not agree to those pricing. Needless to say, it's a long process. It's not just a 1 day or 2 day thing. So what we did to ease the process is that we've been very upfront and transparent with the communication with both the board and the community at large. We've kept them updated every day of what's going on. And then we also send them communications to let them know, hey, look, we know what happened. Here's our plan. This is what the steps that we got to do to be able to get you to safety. And here are where we're at every day, and this is what we're doing with it. Now, I'm happy to report to you 2 weeks after the incident happened, the stone sign has been fixed, and it's back to its norm, back to what it looked before. And quite frankly, if you look at it today, it doesn't look like a accident was there 2 weeks ago. And everyone is happy, right? But that takes a lot of work on everyone's end to make that happen. And our job as the HOA management company is to make sure that we work with the board to educate them and get them to safety with doing it through all of these steps.
Very good. Happy that it turned out for good. It's a 100%. Nice story. Inaas, where do you want to be in the industry in the next decade? What's next for Inaas?
Yeah, so this is awesome. I really love the aspects of what I'm doing for Block. I really do, because it, again, remember what I told you earlier, if you figure out what you really love to do in the world and you find a place that allows you to do it, you kind of won the career battle. And I feel this is the right fit because it does allow me to rebuild our ops. And when I say rebuild, doesn't mean that I'm rebuilding every day, but really making them better every day. And then number two, building for that scale so I can scale the business up. And we've done this very well. We're looking to also scale it up by quite a bit. We're looking to almost triple our size by the end of this year. And you know, that's quite awesome when you think about it from operational perspective. And then finally is the ability to be part of this growth story and grow the company and take it to the places where it needs to be. As long as this company is working in those elements and that's what they want, then we have a meeting in the minds and we're working together very, very well. If that doesn't happen, then I would tell you the next thing is for me to be able to find a place where it would allow me to do all of those three things: build for operational efficiency, scale business or build for scalability, and then finally build for growth or accepting growth and working through growth.
Final question to you, Inaas, a different one. What do you do when you are not working?
Oh, that's a great question, Mateo. Because I mean, you and I, we go way back, so you know this very, very well about me. By nature, I'm a workaholic. I do like working, not because people are asking me to, but because I feel compelled to be able to do it. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and I want to make sure that I produce the best results and the best work. So I am a workaholic by nature. However, every once in a while, I also recognize that you have to shut down and you have to be able to provide an ability for yourself to be able to catch on with yourself. So I like to travel with my family, with my wife, and beside travel, I just like to do what I call the quiet days. We may just shut down from everything and just take a quiet day and just do nothing and just enjoy the ability to be able to spend time with each other and not think about work, not do work, but really truly be intentional about the relationship and about, you know, being present with each other. So it's travel and spending some time with the family whenever I can. And it seemed to work for me, and it seems to recharge me all the time.
Inaas, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. And I hope that we can get to do this again sometime in the future.
I absolutely loved it. Thank you very much, Mateo. You're wonderful as always. Love to be able to visit you at your home country one of those days. But if you are in my neck of the wood, let me know. Would love to see you and meet with you again. And it was an absolute pleasure for me to be with you today.